Welcome to yet another interview on the UK Pun Off. This time we have Mr. Stevie Vegas. How are we doing?
I am doing fine on this lovely morning. Thanks for having me, sir.
Yeah, not at all. It's great to have you on. So, first, how many pun offs have you done? How many UK pun offs have you done? There's quite a few. Five of them.
Won 3 of them.
Wow, that's quite the batting average, isn't it, man? Is that a batting average? I don't know. Scottish, don't know about cricket. But yes,
I'm stumped as well, so.
Oh, here we go. We've already started. Not 10 seconds in, and we've already got the first one out. There we go, man. So, well, when it comes to things like that, when it comes to thinking things like off the top of your head, are you more comfortable with that style of punning, or would you rather sort of prepare them? What do you rather doing?
My honours degree is information management. So if I can get stuff into a database, a spreadsheet, Word document, and spend needless weeks and months preparing for something, then I know that on the night I can use it if I need it, or just go off on improvising. But really, if I haven't put in the full prep, then I'd be nervous.
Right. So is that your sort of writing style? Then it's all about the preparation, or writing and performing style. It's about the kind of preparation and being able to sort of call on things when needed, and having that sort of bank of information there to draw upon.
It's about going absolutely native with things everywhere, and just that means on the night I've prepared enough to just relax and know that whatever happens, I've done my best, and that makes a difference. I've now got my database of 2,500 jokes that I've written. So I've been doing a joke a day since the summer of 2016. So we're at about 2,500 jokes, because I've stepped up during lockdown to writing about 3 or 4 a day and putting them out. I've still got a backlog of about 150 jokes that are still to go out, because during lockdown I can't go out and entertain and juggle because all the events are closed. So my mind just turns to comedy, which during the past year and a half has opened up tons of doors, whereas juggling is just completely shut. So I've just followed comedy because it's just been a fun thing to do.
Yeah. Right, so you talk about kind of the juggling there. So sort of say like pre-lockdown, would you have seen yourself more as a juggler, entertainer, comedian, or the hybrid?
I've always done jokes as part of the juggling and the magic, but the jokes have really came to the fore since the UK Pun Championships came along in 2019. That's when all of a sudden, that was my first stand-up gig, because I couldn't just rely on the props. I was there for comedy, and anything else I did was to help the comedy, whereas normally comedy was to help the juggling and the magic and the singing and the dancing and the rapping and all the other stuff. So it's just turned everything on its head. So I don't know what performances will look like when I come out of lockdown. I think my routines will have a load more jokes in them. I can't imagine going back the way now, but we'll see what happens.
So was I right in hearing you saying that the UK Pun Championships was your first ever stand-up gig?
Yeah. So
talk about a baptism of fire, man.
No, I mean that backs up 20 years of performing, juggling and not being fazed by crowds. And because juggling, you have to get used to dropping and having the crowd unsure of what to do and how to react. And so if you've built up 20 years of dealing with heckles and having drop lines and dealing with any possible situation that can happen, someone wandering into your space while you're juggling and you're having to deal with the audience and all that, if you can deal with all that and still get through your performance and not be fazed, then walking into a boxing ring, this very boxing ring, this was my first bout on 2019.
Yeah, remember it well.
The mighty Rob Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
It was the only one I didn't want put up against in the quarterfinal. So naturally, he came out the hat. He'd won it the year before. So I thought I'll stand a chance against anyone but the mighty Rob. So out he came and defeated me. But he was full of advice and encouragement afterwards, which made me think I could go and try it again the next year.
Yeah,
So,
Rob knows his stuff without a doubt. He knows his stuff without a doubt. So after the UK Pun Championships, as you said, that was like your first proper exclusive kind of comedy gig. Did your sort of normal act kind of change after that, or did you start focusing more on comedy, or was that just being seen as like it's a one-off?
I wanted to go for it in 2020, so I kept on the joke writing one a day for the next year because I was still thinking of jokes. My mind started becoming more attuned to turns of phrases and things I heard on the telly that I could adapt into a joke, whatever. So the comedy radar had kind of started. But no, it was back to the juggling and the magic, and if I could fit a joke in that sorted the occasion. Jokes were normally used in my juggling routine as things that are happening on the day. So it's more kind of improv. It's calling out the elephant in the room so that people are completely at ease. And you know, if I'm going to get heckled for being bald or tall or being Scottish, then getting in there first to set the room at ease. Because if I've called myself out, then anyone else doing it's just going to look like a chump.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's getting in the first digs.
Yeah, keeping the confidence within yourself to deal with anything that comes your way, type thing. So as you said, it was more about kind of like improv in your regular act of kind of entertaining. Have you, or are you looking to adapt your act to certain jokes that you may have written? Or do you think you're still, for example, if you've written some great jokes, I mean, you contributed to the pun off, I think, every single week. And as you say, you've been on 5 times and won 3 of them. So you've obviously got a load of good jokes. So are there any ones that maybe that you've written that you've got a good reaction to, or you've thought, that's a great joke, but then thought, right, I'm going to turn that joke into maybe part of a juggling act or part of a magic set or part of a song, something like that? Has that been in your thinking at all?
Well, you guys have gave me a regular challenge once a week for the pun off for like 50 weeks in a row, where I've had to write six different topics. I've always wanted 4 jokes on each topic, so that if someone said one, I still had 3 that I could put up on the screen, because I've taken part every week in it. So that means 24 new jokes a week, unless I happen to have one already written. That's easier now that I've built up 2,500. I know that Julian, for instance, just delves back into his massive collection of jokes he's written and very rarely has to write a new one. So yeah, if I'm writing another 1,000 every year, then I'll eventually get to that stage, but a long while to go yet. But we had the topic fruit. So I wrote a ton of fruit puns and then realized I could turn them into a 3-minute juggling magic comedy fruit routine. And so that got created during lockdown, and that's up on YouTube. So it's me doing all the fruit puns that I'd written for the pun off, as well as loads of others I'd written, but while doing what I do. So that could now be used in real life, but it would take a lot of rehearsing, because I got to do as many takes as I wanted, and I'd need to nail it first time in real life. So a lot of the stuff during lockdown, I've had all the time in the world to prepare it. So I've got 40 new routines performed where I've been able to perform beside myself, beside myself. And some of those things won't translate to real life because I can't clone myself. But other ones, I've been able to pick a trick I couldn't do and then spend weeks rehearsing it, and then I just need to nail that trick once while delivering the line.
Yeah.
That's it, done. To do it in real life, I'm going to have to spend weeks rehearsing again.
So do you have a lot of props in your in your repertoire, I suppose?
If I turn up at a gig to do my 1 hour show, then there'd probably be 150, 200 props with me.
Right.
There'd be suitcases full. It would be a full Roger Swift. It would be a full. I'm a prop. I'd be considered a prop comic if I was to go and do any of this stuff, because I'd be using all the props while telling jokes. Straight stand up would be more nerve-wracking for me because I wouldn't have anything to lean on.
Because obviously, I mean, you've said that you've done quite a few sort of online comedy shows. During sort of lockdown, have you done many sort of entertainment kind of shows?
I got fully into performing on Zoom early days and got booked for school assemblies and all that kind of stuff.
Right, cool.
You're not a big fan of Zoom. You almost brought something up there yeah, early days. I've had some absolute nightmares with Zoom, as you would say. I've had people change the Zoom meeting without telling me. So I'm still preparing and getting the green screen set up and all that kind of stuff. And the school's phoning me saying all the pupils are ready and waiting. Where are you? So I've had to go on and improvise for half an hour instead of have everything. Because usually I'd lay out my props left to right, and that's my running order for the show. And then I don't have to glance at the running order sheet because everything is locked down.
There for you.
But when you get called up an hour early and you don't have the suit on, you don't have the green screen set up so that you're blocking out your living room wall, then all of a sudden it's absolute nightmare.
So do you perform, would you say that you sort of perform better under that kind of pressure, or would you rather be sort of prepared?
I'm a fully prepared information management. If I can, Punderdome last week, me and you were on it. I went full native for a month. I bought books on American puns. I watched every Punderdome I could lay my hands on, hours and hours of material. I wrote about a 15,000 word document on how to deal with the show and how to react, and every bit of advice anyone had ever written. And I discovered spider diagrams. That was my big thing that I'd never really went into before. So spider diagrams, like I know I'm doing one of your next big gigs, which is the Outpunched on the 23rd of May. That's going to be an American style pun show. That is going to be me using spider diagrams to the maximum, to be able to put the topic in the middle and spread out to subtopics and spread out to jokes.
Sure.
Much better than a list, much better than trying to remember things. So spider diagrams, as of the past month, might be the new way of working when I have to improv.
So do you think that wouldn't be your sort of normal way of like writing a joke then? But like for improv and stuff like that, that'd get the kind of creative juices flowing, like what branches off and things like that as well. Because I know I've used something, I think it's probably the same thing, but it wasn't called spider diagrams. I think it's cloud something, but it's essentially the same idea in writing stories. When I used to write stories, sort of get a central theme, little sub branches, and then that sort of stuff. So I'm assuming it's the same kind of thing. So that like sort of
spider with legs.
Only ends up with a million legs.
Yeah,
more like Hecaton Keres. More like Hecaton Keres, but it doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
That's easy for you to say.
It's easy for me. It's all Greek to me. So that's how you sort of set it up. If you're doing kind of like improv, or kind of if you're looking to sort of train yourself for kind of off the cuff stuff. And just for full disclosure here, what Stevie's just said there about all the preparation that he's went into, all the sort of techniques that he's learned to do the Punderdome. He got through his heat. I switched my computer on half an hour before, fell on Mars. There's a lesson there for everyone. So, yeah, Stevie smashed it. Stevie was fucking great on it. I shat the bed. Hey-ho. So that's your kind of input.
I bought the Punderdome game, got it imported. Right. I was told by the guy in charge, Fred, that the topic would be one of the cards in the game. I had all 300 cards. He gave a topic that was not on the cards. So I had to go full improv. I had been through all 300 cards. Not doing 2-minute prep, but really just cutting the deck, timer, writing what I could, seeing how many. The topic I got was hygiene, not on any cards whatsoever.
So how did that? When that came out? Because obviously you've been prepping for it, as you said, for a while, and you've already said that you're the kind of the prep master, if you like. You like to be sort of prepared. I mean, it's the same with myself. I like to have. I've got documents and all the rest of it, different categories for different things, color codes and all that sort of shit as well. So you like to be
highlighters, yeah.
It's all digital for me. But as you say, I mean, like, you kind of like to be prepared. You know what to do. You know where to go for certain bits of information. And you thought you'd prepared at least something in your mind. There'd be something in the back of your mind for all 300 topics. And then something come out like that where it was completely out of the blue. So how were you feeling at that point? Because, I mean, I do remember, obviously I remember it was only the other week, seeing you on it. And it did look like you had, not that you'd prepared, but you certainly didn't look flustered. So how were you feeling at that point?
Well, I trained myself not to get flustered. So I trained myself, whatever came up. I had about 20 generic jokes in my head that could fill the space. I'd also worked out that you had 90 seconds to deliver. So you only really needed 10 puns, one every 9 seconds. And on any practice session I had, I was writing 13 or 14.
Right.
So I knew that I didn't have to worry because I had that on my side. So I wasn't going to lose 5-10 seconds panicking and freezing. And then it was just, if you stuck hygiene in the middle, then what does that mean? Well, that relates to shaving, and it relates to brushing your teeth, and it relates to cleaning, which is baths and showers. And as soon as you opened hygiene up to those many topics, I could then think of jokes I'd written on them already.
Nice.
And I also had about 200 props within arm's reach. So I knew that I could start with a toothbrush and talk about hygiene, brushing your teeth, and I can twirl a toothbrush on a stick. And that meant I could go straight into what I'd normally do if I was performing toothbrush on a stick in front of a school assembly. I'd have about 5 or 6 puns that I could bristle with confidence and be very fulfilled and all that kind of. So yeah, so it was the spider diagram, but that was just through practice of spiders.
Nice. So
birds and bees was an easier topic.
Birds and bees.
Yeah, that was in the semi-final.
Yeah,
I noticed that was easier, but I went out on that one.
Yeah, that's probably because you used 3 of my jokes in it. But let's not talk about that.
Hey.
So you say you like to sort of prepare your jokes and things like that. Have you got like a specific technique for like writing puns and things like that when you are set, say, a topic? Let's say it's.
When I'm set a topic.
Like, for example, if you're sitting down to write some puns, or you're going to do a writing session, have you got any sort of particular technique to come up with the puns, or?
Yeah, well, you guys would post the UK Pun Off poster on a Tuesday usually. So I'd get an alert on my Facebook, and if I'm not doing anything that afternoon, if I don't have a gig, which I haven't had during lockdown, funnily enough, then I'd be looking at all 6 topics, and I'd just take them one by one and probably two of the topics would be stuff we've kind of done before, or I've got jokes on, so they're easy enough to come up with 3 or 4 jokes. The other ones I'm probably going to go onto Wikipedia. I'm gonna learn about the topics, and you guys have been fantastic for geography. Well, if I was in a pub quiz team, you would not pick me to do any geography questions whatsoever. I wouldn't know a thing. But you know, since the pun-offs came along, there's usually one of the 6 topics that's about a country or a city or something. And that means that if you go on Wikipedia and even just learning what famous people come from that country that you didn't really know about, because that's going to lead to a pun about a movie that they were in that you already punned about for a completely different reason, or their tourist attraction or their language. Maybe you can just learn a word that you can turn. Yeah, so it's all just about deep diving into Wikipedia and beyond. So joke writing is my way of learning the world. It seems quite bizarre, but I wouldn't know a thing. I mean, the Caribbean, like I wouldn't have been able to talk for 2 seconds on the Caribbean before it came up as a topic. Yeah,
like some of the things that I've learned.
Scandinavia.
Yeah. It's not a country, it's an area. Yeah. There's a whole bonus show on it. Seek it out. But don't seek out some of the other ones. But anyway, so where is it that where's your favourite place to perform?
Oh, festivals and fun days. So I'm hoping that now that I'm kind of getting known more as a comedian, that comedy festivals might hire me as some sort of walkabout entertainment and meet and greet as people arrive at some sort of big comedy gig. Bedford Fringe got in on that act 4 or 5 years ago, so I've been a part of Bedford Fringe, which is only 20 minutes from my door. The manager there, top bloke that tries to get me in, even if it's doing walkabout or circus workshops in the garden before another big circus act that's came to headline that day or whatever. But I mean, if I could do that kind of thing at Leicester or Edinburgh Fringe.
Yeah.
But festivals, if I can be wandering about at music festivals or fun days, in my suit, maybe take a few changes of suit, and just lift the occasion, just wander about and entertain small groups of people everywhere, and hopefully they're already having fun doing all their stuff, so I can just move on.
Just accentuate it, really,
yeah.
So
if it's a rainy day, if it's a rainy day, then the job becomes even easier, because then everyone else is miserable and I get to cheer them up. So I really don't mind being absolutely soaked to the bone and singing and dancing and doing everything while everyone's watching safely from a nice covered area, because then that's the thing they'll remember about the whole event and I'll get invited back.
That's very true. That's very true. Good thinking, man.
Yeah.
So what was it that got you into sort of either entertainment or comedy in the first place?
Well, I've got an eating problem, so it's not something that I really dwell on. But basically, most foods that people like and would eat, I just don't. So usually around the dinner table, I'm fidgeting and just coming up with jokes, because I've got to pass the time, because I am absolutely bored at my mind waiting for dinner to end. And fun and games, or whatever the event or whatever reason we were there for to begin, because that's exciting. Food isn't. So that's where it went to during childhood, and then just a love of 90s comedy and taping every possible show on Betamax and then VHS and watching it over and over again. Red Dwarf and Mary Whitehouse Experience would be the big two. But loads more. Sean's Show, awesome.
Sean Show, there's a blast from the past, man. Sean Show.
Yeah, just rewatched it because every episode's on YouTube, so it holds up nicely.
Right, so what would you say that the best gig that you've performed at has been, whether it's like a festival or whatever?
Probably say the Pun Championships. Like I say, it was my first comedy gig that I performed at. I'd been to every single Pun Championships before it, apart from
Right.
one that I had a gig. So I missed Masai Graham getting crowned that year, but the previous 6 or whatever I'd been in the audience for. So just to have that as my favorite show of the year and then suddenly be on it the next year, awesome.
So you sort of there, sort of almost taking notes because it was something that you were interested in and something that you were kind of developing within yourself, or was it just purely a spectacle?
Purely a spectator thing. In fact, Jason Byrne, the year before, he came down off the cloud-filled stage and he turned and he looked at me, and I think I must have I don't have a smiley face, so he must have assumed I wasn't enjoying it, but he ripped into me. So I wasn't even looking forward to meeting him on the night of the 2019 championships because I thought he'll remember me. But of course, I mean, he does what 500 gigs a year and rips into his audience every single time. So yeah. So I mean, I thought he might be quite a prickly character, but he was fantastic, very encouraging.
Yeah, he's a really, really nice guy, really down to earth. So, have you got sort of going back to sort of like techniques and things like that? Have you got a technique how you memorize your jokes, or is it just as we've said, you've got sort of do a lot of kind of like improv when you're doing your sort of regular act, but is there a way that you would sort of memorize like a particular length of set or anything like that?
My memory is laying out all the props on the floor in front of me because I'm a props guy. As long as the props are in order, then I can somehow link. I know a lot of people like Gary Delaney go to their memory palace, but I've read books on this stuff. It just doesn't, that method just doesn't sink in. But if I can look at all the props laid in front of me, and then it's just a case of remembering the joke that goes with each one of them, but it's already linked because I've practiced it in advance.
Yeah.
So my shows are all modular. So like every routine is it could be a 10-second routine, it could be 3 minutes, but they're all just bits. So I just need to remember bits and then
so it's
together.
It's almost as if each kind of prop is invisibly labeled type thing. When you get to that prop, that's that joke.
And there'll rarely be kind of 10 new routines in the show. There'll be a couple of new things. There might be when I first go back because I've written all these routines and whatever that no one's seen in real life. So maybe when I come back, I'll be a bit rusty and want to get the new stuff out. But no, if you've got 8 of your old routines and then you chuck in a few new ones, then yeah, you're fine.
Cool. Mike, just in kind of finishing up, what is your favorite joke? Favorite joke that you've written?
Julian's written a couple of really good ones.
Your favorite joke, as in my own one.
My own one.
We can go on to that in a minute, or you can go along. I was going to ask you your favorite joke and the favorite joke that's not
and
yours.
Then favorite other. Okay, my favorite joke is. Can anyone remind me how to use WD-40? I'm a bit rusty. That's my favorite because that was one of the 5 that I wrote on my application for the Pun Championships 2019. Right. So one of those 5 must have tickled the audience, the bosses enough to say, yeah, let's put him in because he ain't a comedian. And, you know, the other 7 on the bill were all people that were in Leicester doing their 1-hour shows, and then there was me. So, yeah, a favorite joke of someone else would be Gary Delaney. He challenged himself to write the smallest joke possible, and I think he's beat it several times since. But he came up with six words, and it was Cleopatra's Needle. Good point, well made. So, just yeah. If he ever sets himself a challenge to do something, you know the joke's going to be top quality.
Yeah, totally on point. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Stevie Vegas, for joining us for this little interview. It's been fascinating sort of getting to know the man behind the pun and the man behind the juggling things and all that. And we will hope to see you again very soon.
Thank you, sir. All the best. Cheers.